Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Today's guest is Western Kentucky men's golf coach Austin King. Austin and I discussed the impact his college coach, Philip Hatchett, had on his playing career at WKU, but also how that experience will influence his coaching going forward. We also talk about the excitement to be coaching at his alma mater, something not every coach gets to do. Austin's a terrific young coach, and I know you'll enjoy listening. Okay, Better Than I Found It listeners, let's give a big welcome to newly hired Western Kentucky head coach, good friend of mine, Austin King. Austin, thanks for joining me today on Better Than I Found It.
Thanks, Coach. Happy to be here. Excited for this.
Yeah, this will be great. I don't have I don't know how many kids or young coaches that I've had, some sort of influence on or mentored or whatever. I don't know how many I've had on here yet, but you're definitely one that I knew you well. You were still in college and wanting to be a coach. So this will be fun to talk. And my gosh, I said newly hired. I mean, you've literally been the head coach for 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months. I mean, I guess I found out that I got the job. It was right before we left the regionals at Charlotte. Finished out the season with them and jumped in right away. Just got in my car, headed over, got on the road recruiting. It was like, all right, I just got to go do something. So let's go.
Well, how old are you again? Remind me.
Just turned 29 about 3 weeks ago.
I was so not ready to be a head coach at a Division I school when I was 29. I promise you, no way was I ready. So I don't know. I can't even imagine what is going through your mind right now as the student athletes are getting ready to come back to campus. So you've been here, but basically 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
What have been the biggest surprises? What's kicked you right smooth in the teeth? What has been the biggest adjustment so far as a head coach? And the athletes aren't here yet, but you've been a head coach.
Yeah, I think the big thing of just like being the guy to call the shots now, it's been really good for me. It definitely has its overwhelming moments that I've definitely had and had to talk through with people, but you work through it. And just, I remember when I was like making my recruiting schedule, I was like going through tournaments, just like in the area regionally. And then I'm kind of looking around. It's like, oh, okay. I make the call now of what I'm going to do here. So it's not Cabo, who I worked for at Charlotte. It's like, all right, Austin, you go to this tournament in South Carolina, then Georgia, and then go to this in Tennessee. And then, all right, get on the road and see it. It's like, all right, now I make that call for myself. So it's empowering, but definitely overwhelming times. But I think it's been good for me. It's made me be decisive and just kind of really have to trust my instinct a little bit more. It's moments that are really easy to kind of second guess yourself and doubt a little bit, but it's one of those where you just have to be very committed. Like we talk about that with our players and golf shots, and it's like, now here's that for me now.
So when you're an assistant coach and the coach tells you to go to this tournament and recruit, you go because you're the loyal assistant coach.
Yeah.
Maybe you question what he says. Like, why would you do that? I remember when we were recruiting Brian Harmon. So I was the assistant coach, and he was from Georgia, and I knew in my heart of hearts he was going to Georgia. And Mike Holder said, we're going to follow him every step of the way the next 2 years. And I just kept on thinking, we did that with Ryan Hibble. It did not work out. But Mike was still of a mind that if we worked hard enough, we could get it done. But I questioned it. I really did in the back of my mind. And I don't know. Now, if you question it, you're questioning yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You? Yeah, it's like, oh, this is just me now. Okay.
So that is crazy. So you're the head coach. Are you going to have an assistant coach to start with?
Yes, I do. He actually started last week, a few days ago. His name's James Boone. He was a guy who, honestly, he applied when I posted it. It was really cool. He applied like within an hour or two, and he had a really cool resume that was in cover letter that was really well done, super detail oriented and stuff. And I could tell he had a really cool story. So he grew up in Murray, Kentucky, just a couple hours away from here in Bowling Green. And he actually originally was a basketball player. Played basketball at Samford University down in Birmingham, played there for a year, I believe. And then he got hurt, moved back to Murray, to transfer to Murray State. And I think he was a decent junior player and high school player, golf wise. And he kind of got back into that, started competing again, and actually walked on the golf team and played there his last 2 years. So really, really, really cool, unique background. Hit it off with him well right away. You can tell he's a guy who's in it for the right reasons. And just he's been a sponge so far, like asked all sorts of questions, wanting to know how this works, how that works, wanting to know like what all he can do, what he can do to get better as a coach, and ways to think. So he's been absolutely fantastic so far. I'm really excited to work with him.
Well, is he actually your assistant coach? Is he a GA? What is that? Is he?
He's a grad assistant. So
Okay, so let's talk about that real quick because that's your unique entry into college coaching, was you were
yes.
a grad assistant. So it's an unusual thing because you're not being paid, but your schooling is being paid. And
Right.
so I think it's a pure way to get into coaching because you're doing it because you want to enter into the profession.
For sure.
So you posted, an hour later, he applies and you're in. How did you get in your a graduate assistant opportunity?
Yeah. So kind of what I did, I know we'll get into this story even deeper later on. So I knew it was my senior year. I knew I wanted to coach college golf. I knew I probably wasn't good enough to play professionally. And I just kind of knew it was like, all right, I got to start somewhere, and I'm going to have to start from the bottom and just work my way up. That's how this is going to go. And so I just sent out a bunch of blind emails to coaches all over the country, just trying to find some sort of opportunity somewhere. And and with that, you don't get a lot of responses. Some it's just like, you don't have anything. Some are like, we don't have anything, but here's some advice for you. Here's my phone number. Give me a call. But then how mine kind of came about was Ben Hannon down at the University of South Alabama actually did have an opening. And so he reached back out to me. I remember we talked on the phone once, and had a really good conversation. He talked to my head coach, who I was playing for here at Western at the time, a little bit. And then I happened to be, this is like the winter of my senior year. So like December, January, right in there before school started back up. I was down in Pensacola, Florida, playing just like a winter college event, just to kind of stay competitive during that off season. And it was only an hour or two away from Mobile. And I told him that like, hey, I'm going to be in the area. I can come over there and just like meet you in person. He said, yeah, that'd be great. So I went over there one day and had kind of an informal interview, and if you will. And then he called me a couple weeks later and offered it to me. And it's like, all right, moving to Mobile, Alabama, to University of South Alabama to get this thing started. So, yeah. And so I had my 2 years there, and yeah, it's like you get your grad school paid for and you get a little bit of a stipend every month. And I was fortunate to have some parents who have been supportive of my coaching career and helped me kind of live while I was doing that.
Well, I just love the story, and I hope your new assistant, GA assistant, I hope it works out the same for him because
Yeah.
it's hard breaking into our profession anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
not easy. And the fact that you used a little bit different route to do it, and you're a smart kid, so the school part didn't bother you, but you still
Right.
had to juggle school, coaching, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot
Absolutely.
to juggle, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure it was. It was I guess I got my MBA while I was there, and I mean, I had class 2 nights a week, but still had to study for tests and do everything. But I was able to really pour into the coaching, and really that's why I was there, because I wanted to start my coaching career. I wanted to help this team and help these guys at this program that I'm a part of now get better.
Well, it's a two-way street too. You did get your
Mm-hmm.
master's paid for,
Yeah,
which
I
is
did, which is
wonderful.
very
That's a
nice. Yeah.
wonderful deal. But let's back up a little bit. A good friend of yours and a former player of mine, Hunter Shattuck. I mean, absolute legendary figure, Hunter. He's
That he
unbelievable. He's
is.
amazing. He was actually a guest on this podcast before, and
Mm-hmm.
I just have so many great memories. But I remember Hunter telling me uh, before the school year started, I've got this friend. His name's Austin King, and he's a senior, going to be a senior at Western Kentucky, and he really wants to talk about getting into coaching. Would you talk to him? I said, sure. And the next thing I know, it's not 30 minutes you've called me, and about 2 days later, you're in my office.
Yeah.
And I remember just talking to you thinking, I've never had a kid talk to me while he's still competing in college
Mm-hmm.
about getting into coaching. So you'd already made the decision mentally,
Mm-hmm.
you were moving on.
Right.
What do you remember about that meeting? I want to hear because I have my memories.
Yeah, I remember that. I drove down there to Waco, and you're like, I was so grateful for it because it was in the middle of crazy recruiting season and everything like that. And I came down there, and we met there in your office there at Twin Rivers, or I guess it's Bear Ridge now. I know you've got your new place, the Billy Williams facility. And we met for like 4 hours, and I just sat there, and you answered every question that I had. A lot of questions I had, you wanted like were answered before I even got to them, but just all the different stories I heard, like your journey of like kind of how you started as the high school coach and then you turned into the Oklahoma State assistant. and then the head coach, but then kind of the transformation you had like towards from the end of that stage in season to your year at Alabama with Coach Sewell to where you're now there at Baylor. You let me in on everything, which I really, really appreciated. So I felt like just very fulfilled with plenty of good lessons to learn of like understanding what was important. That it was more, this is all about the players. It's not necessarily about me, but it's on me to help them get through that. Yeah, it was something I remember that's something I'll forever be grateful for.
Well, thank you for saying that. I remember it as when I looked back on our meeting and when I wrote that book a couple of years later, I remember thinking, well, I already rehearsed this. I literally told you that whole story that I wrote in the book in that 4-hour period. And I think it was good therapy for me, but it was very nice of Hunter to connect us. And then obviously you and I have stayed connected through the coaching, and you coached for a very dear friend of mine, Ryan Cabbage at Coastal or at Charlotte. But I want to say this, Hunter, who brought us together, Hunter Shattuck, and you have a really interesting story. He alluded to this when he got on the podcast, but I don't think he did the story any justice. So how did you meet Hunter Shattuck in competitive golf?
Yeah. So I actually told this story at his wedding too, which is wonderful. I love telling this story. So it was like this. It was an NTPGA junior tour, which was like a little junior tour that we played on in East Texas when we were growing up. And it was like summer 2009 or so, I want to say. And this like little one-day events, shotgun started at 9 a.m. And me and another guy we were playing with, his name was Connor Barbie. I still remember this. We got paired with Hunter, and I didn't know who Hunter was at the time. And we were playing at Eagles Bluff Country Club, a golf course there just outside of Tyler. And we got put on hole 16A because of the shotgun. And anyone who had ever played Eagles Bluff before knew that the 10th green and the 16th green were like right next to each other. So because it was a shotgun, you just kind of had to walk out to your hole, and they gave guys 20, 30 minutes to get out there, then would start going. And so we walked down 10 and then walked down 16. You're there on the tee box. And me and Connor wait for a little bit, and they're like, where's this Hunter Shattuck kid? Who is he? And it's like, well, maybe just no show for the day. That happened at times. And so we start playing, and we're like, we've hit our shots into the green. We're walking up to the green, and we see this little guy walking around from 17T behind the green. And he's like, hey, are y'all 16A? Or we're like, yeah, that's us. And he's like, hey, I'm Hunter. Sorry, I'll catch up. And so Hunter walks his way on back to the tee box. And it was a rough start for him, I would say. He smother hooked a couple in the water, and I think he made it 8 on the first hole. But what Hunter had done, and Hunter is a very logical thinker with a lot of common sense. And now he's about to be an attorney. He just took the bar exam.
Yep.
Well, what Hunter thought, he's like, oh, I'm playing 16, so I'll walk down 18, 17, 16. Makes perfect sense.
Does.
Also, anyone who had played Eagles Bluff before knows the distance between the 18th tee box and the 17th green at Eagles Bluff is probably long enough to host a charity 5K. So Hunter had probably walked a good 3 miles at this point just to get there to the hole, and showed up late. And it was just a really, really funny story to look back on. It's like, this guy. But little did I know that'd be the day I met one of my best friends, someone I still talk to on a daily basis. I've talked to him today already. So and pretty amazing to see how far everything has come.
Well, I mean, it really is. And I think another interesting thing about Hunter is he was so much fun, but he was also very humble.
Yeah.
And a really smart guy, but he never kind of let on that. He was just a good old country boy from East Texas. He took his law school entrance exam and scored a genius level. I mean, like ridiculous.
Yeah.
And when I called him up to say, Hunter, somebody told me you scored really high in this test, he said, yeah, who knew it? I guess I'm a genius. He had no idea.
Yeah, sounds just like him. No, he's
one of the things. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, talk about a guy who has never who's never boasted in himself whatsoever, about as humble as they come.
He is, and that was one of the things I worked with him on. He would self-deprecate occasionally, wouldn't take a compliment the proper way, and I taught him that. I said, I'm not putting up with that.
Yeah.
If somebody gives you a compliment, say thank you. If somebody pays you a compliment, don't try to deflect it. It's like they meant it. So thank you. But Hunter is an outstanding human being. He will make a great attorney. He's just, everything about Hunter's good. And he's trying to play golf again. He's in Texas as we're recording this podcast.
Yeah, I guess he's got a couple of weeks before his because he's already got a job lined up with a firm there in Washington D.C. where him and his wife are at now, and so they've taken like 2 weeks to come back here to East Texas and visit some family. And he played like a big scramble event called like the Luau there in Jacksonville that he's played in the past, and he's just like now he's grinding on his golf game because he since he's done with the bar exam, he's not working yet. He wants to kind of get it back in shape. So I know he's coming down there to Waco to grind on his game a little bit too. So he's still a golf nerd and still all about it and wants to get better. So
Well, his senior year at Baylor, we made it to match play at nationals. He was a huge part of that. He started the year basically our number 5 man. By the end of the year, he was probably our number 2 or 3 man, and he did it all. I mean, he averaged 96 on 18 holes in the 8th grade.
yeah.
And by the time he got to Vince Clark at McLennan, he was an All-American. Anyway, we could go on and on about Hunter. What a guy. Fantastic. And he brought us together, which I'm always going to be thankful for. But you are doing something right now not everybody gets to do, and that is coach, be the head golf coach at your alma mater.
Yes.
That's got to have some sentimentality for you. It's got to fire you up. I want to hear about that. But also, you're coaching at a place where your college coach, Philip Hatchett, head coach, and what a great guy he was. And I want you to talk a little bit about him and his influence on you.
Yeah. Yeah, to be back at my alma mater, to wear the logo again that I've wore for 4 years here, it's really, really special. I mean, I knew Western growing up. I had a lot of family here in the area and kind of knew Bowling Green. And when I got the opportunity to come play golf here too, I knew it was something I needed to go do. And then being able to come back and coach it was just an incredibly, incredibly special opportunity. And yeah, Coach Hatchett, who I got to play for, he honestly, he kind of just gave me a chance to like live out a dream of mine. And like, I don't think that would have been here until like none of that. Without any of that, I wouldn't be here where I am today. I actually had a really cool full circle moment when I first got here. When I got here and was like signing HR paperwork and everything like that, the office I was in with one of our administrators was actually his old office. And I remember like committing in that office. And now here I was being like signing my paperwork to actually become an official employee. Is really, really, really cool. But that was one thing he did. He let me live out that dream with the opportunity that he gave me. I wasn't that, when I look back on it, it was kind of like, dang, he really gave me a shot because I wasn't that great. I had a long way to go when I got here, which was okay. That was just part of the story. And he was a very, very competitive guy who worked hard. He pushed us hard as well, but with good reason. So yeah, working for him or playing for him was definitely special, and I wouldn't be here without that, no doubt.
Very, very sad, tragic story. He was out riding a bicycle one day and was killed by, I guess, a car hit him.
Yeah.
Where were you when you found out that news?
So I was actually in Charlotte. I had just gotten a job within like a few days. I was up there with my parents, just trying to like find a place to live and everything like that. I just started. And I got a call from one of my old teammates who told me what had happened. I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, I just talked to him 3 days ago. Like, it was, just a really, really, really tough situation. I think from what I've heard, it was, I think someone coming back from like a night shift at work. It was like really early on, about a Sunday morning at like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I think it had fallen asleep at the wheel and drifted over. But now just a tough story, tough situation. I think one thing about it though, so a lot of the old teammates that I had here, it's still a very tight connected group. And that was one thing he did a really good job of, is getting guys who were going to be friends, going to do life together. And like, I still have a lot of them that live here in Bowling Green, and there's a group text that I'm in with a lot of them who still talk to every day. A bunch of us played this past weekend when it was one of their birthdays, and a couple more of them came to town. So I think just that whole story has continued to keep all of us connected over the years, which has been really special.
Thank you for saying that, because that's, I think, one of the great special things about college golf. I'm sure it's in every sport in collegiate athletics, but college golf, it's a small unit. So you get to know the people very, very well, and they become lifelong friends. It doesn't matter what happens, how long somebody plays golf or doesn't play golf competitively, but you're lifelong friends. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Zach Robinson at Oklahoma State, who does not play competitive golf much at all, is still best friends with Alex Noren, who's played, the European Tour and the PGA Tour his entire career. So it's like, that's a special thing, and a good thing you guys are keeping that alive.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right. So you worked for Ben Hannon as a graduate assistant. He was a great guy that got you your start. but you also worked at Charlotte for a really good buddy of mine,
Mhm.
Ryan Cabbage, who's been a guest on this podcast as well. And Ryan is, I think, just an outstanding coach and has one of the great perspectives in college golf. So
Absolutely.
I want you to, I asked him what he thought were his great qualities when he was on my podcast. I want to know from your perspective, what's the best things about him, best qualities, and what he taught you?
Yeah. Oh man, I think I could go on for a long time about it, and I say that because it's true. Cabo, as he's known in college golf, there. I don't know if there's a guy who works much harder than him. When it came to recruiting, he was one of the first ones there and the last one to leave. And how he was able to balance it all, being a dad to 3 boys and a husband to his wife Jennifer. I Part of me thinks he didn't really sleep much, and I don't know, he might not have, but he was up at the gym at like 5 a.m. on the Stairmaster most mornings too. So I think he learned that part from you a little bit.
Well, he
Uh,
did. Let me tell you a quick story before you go on. So he had heard legendary stories about this Stairmaster in Stillwater. And I
mhm,
invited him out to work my golf camp one year. And I thought, okay, I'm going to see what he's made of. Because I was doing the Stairmaster for an hour a day at the highest
mhm,
level. I was just killing it
mhm,
in those days. And he went out there, and I promise you, he beat me on the Stairmaster that
mhm.
day. I just couldn't believe it.
Yep.
Training? I mean, what did he do to get ready for this? It was amazing. He's a tough dude.
Absolutely. No, tough, as competitive as they come. And one of the other great things, he cared a lot about our players. Whenever you were going to play for him, you knew he was going to have your back and have your best interest at heart. He was never afraid to tell guys what they needed to hear. And he always did it in a way that I felt like guys left with direction and practical direction. They knew it was coming from a place of like, because he cared about you and he wanted to see you do well and he wanted to push you for good reason. That was one of the things that was so amazing. He knew what button to push when. He knew when a guy needed the arm wrapped around him. He knew when a guy maybe needed a kick in the pants a little bit. But a guy never left his office or a time on the range or a time at a tournament without like practical ways to like go move forward and get better with what he was doing. That was one of the most amazing things to see each and every single day from him.
Sounds like to
He
me you ought to use that this fall.
Yes, yeah, for sure, for sure. Now he led extremely well. It was incredible to see. It was honestly, I loved working with him and for him, and I learned so much each and every single day. Like it was honestly, it was hard to leave working with him. It was that special, and anyone who gets the opportunity to work with him is like it's a gift. So, but being able to kind of come back here, I knew it was something I couldn't pass up on. And he was always super encouraging to me and pushing me to like grow as a coach. Things that I needed to get better at, helping me. I talked about like being decisive. That was something I really learned from him. He taught me to kind of, it's sometimes more important to be decisive than it is correct. You can kind of fix it on the back end if you're able to go into it with full commitment. And being able to have tougher conversations with guys, knowing when they need to, and then being able to gain that awareness to know like what they need when.
Hmm. Well, I think I agree with everything you say. It makes total sense as to why he is a great coach. And I just know that you have a challenge coming before you, and that's you're coaching as a head coach for the first time. And so that chair that I'm looking in this Zoom call, you're sitting at a chair, it's a head coach's chair.
Yep, it is.
It's way different than that assistant coach's chair. Way
Yep.
different. So this summer, what are the biggest things that have kind of kicked you in the teeth or surprised you? What are the surprises you've had? No student athletes yet, but
Yeah.
what surprised you about this transition this summer?
I think one of the big things when was like recruiting. Honestly, I've like going to offer kids and talk to kids and recruit them because I had to start building a team right away just for this next 2024 class. Like I got told no like right away from a couple of kids a couple of times. It was kind of like, dang, I'm the one getting this call now. This is a little different. When you're the assistant, you hear it, and it's kind of like, dang, but you're able to kind of move on from it. This one, it sits with you a little bit more. You might fall asleep thinking about it at night a little bit, but I think what the challenge in that is like, okay, what are you going to do with that now? Are you going to kind of feel sorry for yourself and sulk in a little bit? Or are you going to be like, okay, maybe here's where I could have done better. Here's where I could have adjusted it a little bit. And then you kind of got to keep moving forward. I would say that's probably been the biggest kick. Like you might go watch a kid all over the place, and then all of a sudden he ends up and like you think you got him, and then he goes somewhere else, and you're like, wait, what did I do wrong? And sometimes it's like, man, that just wasn't, you get who you're supposed to get, and that just wasn't it, and that's okay. Learn what you can from it, and then keep pushing forward.
You just said it. You get who you're supposed to get, and by gosh, coach the ones you do get. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Anything you do that's unique in coach, in your personality or whatever you think that might help you in coaching?
Yeah, I would say one of the big things, I do reflect on my own golf career a lot, just in a sense of I felt like I worked hard, but I didn't work super smart. I hit way too many golf balls, kept trying to hit the too many perfect 7-irons. Wish I would have probably played more golf. Wish I would have competed a little bit more. And another thing I've learned is that, I mean, I said it kind of before we got on here, to put it bluntly, I was pretty soft. I just in a sense of like, I let things get to me when I didn't have to. And so I try to, and now being on the other side of it, I kind of look back as like, I actually had a choice to make in those moments where it got tough. Was it easy to? No, but it was necessary. It's like, if I go down this self-deprecating rabbit hole, then this isn't going to go well. So I need to find a way to make the choice to not do that if I do want this to go well. And just being able to kind of look at it from a very practical sense, I think that was huge for me. And then another thing too is that I try to help any player I work with. I like to help them understand like what good golf is from like a numbers perspective. So like I got an engineering degree in college, but that's another story where I got about 3 years into that, and it was just like, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. But a lot of the numbers and problem solving skills and stuff that I gained from that stuff I still use every single day. So when a guy has an understanding that like, hey, that 8-footer, you're only supposed to make about half the time, or like, hey, if you hit that 7-iron from 178 yards, like inside 30 feet, that's actually a tour quality shot. So knowing little things like that, I think there's a lot of freedom in that. So it's like, oh, like I wasn't supposed to make all of those. It's like, oh, like I'm just supposed to hit it to there. Like I don't have to hit this thing to 5 feet. And helping guys really see that for what it is, I think is super, super helpful. Like helping them understand what good golf really is and looks like. I think that stuff I really, really try to harp on. I think that's kind of something that helps me out a lot.
Well, I try to do the same thing, but I don't have an engineering math background. My brain does not work that way. So I have to work a little harder than you do to get that across to them.
Yeah,
I really do.
all right.
Relative to that, Austin, you're getting ready to coach student athletes for the first time. And you mentioned earlier that you admittedly were a little bit soft as a player, and you'd like to help players with that. But what are some other things you didn't do well or couldn't do as a player that you think you can help with your players with going forward?
Yeah, I didn't manage my golf game very well. I played very emotionally is probably a good way to put it. I think that kind of comes back to the being a little soft. It's like you'd make a bogey, and it's like, oh, I need to make a birdie and get this shot back. And so I got to hit this 4-iron to 5 feet on this par 3 where it's tucked over a bunker. It's like, no, like it's okay. Like, what's this shot actually call for? You just need to hit this on the green and 2-putt, and then you can worry about birdie in the par 5. That's coming up. I think that's a big thing. And then with that, like being able to prepare with that, like, and breaking down a golf course in a way of like, hey, and looking back at statistics and numbers, I know I'll kind of come back to that just because that's a little bit of my background, and knowing like, hey, like this is going to actually be the birdie hole. These are the kind of numbers you might have into the hole. Let's prepare for that. And just, I think I'll be able to make stuff like have a little bit better purpose in preparation. And just so there's not a lot of stuff that's going on that's like very mindless, if that makes sense. Like hitting the shots that you need to hit like during the practice round, kind of knowing what to look out for, knowing like, hey, like you can be actually more aggressive to that pin or that one. Like, hey, you really need to, let's actually give ourselves a little bit more room on this one, and helping guys really understand that stuff, I think is something I'll be able to do.
I love it. You're speaking in a very self-belief, sort of confident way here. Do you think you're going to be able to do that when the bell rings?
I think so.
Okay. I think so too. I just wanted to ask the question. And sometimes it's okay when you ask a question that makes somebody feel uncomfortable. You're going to have to do that with a player occasionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's talk about your current team. You've inherited every single one of them. Now, what they are is they are hilltoppers, and you were one as well. I think it's great you can speak to that. But talk about your team, where are they from, who they are, that type of thing. Let's go through your lineup if we could.
Yeah, so I inherited a team of 11, 10 returners and one guy, and then one freshman, actually a guy from Dallas, Gage Doyle, who I know you knew decently well just from him at your camp and everything. He just got in a couple of days ago and he's fitting in right away. Excited to work with him. Got several Kentucky guys, got like one from Louisville, one from Lexington, a couple from kind of the Owensboro, Bowling Green area, two brothers who I'm really excited for. And then it's an older team. It's not super. I think I've got like 3 seniors and 4 juniors. One from Indiana, one from Chicago, one from Georgia. So, and just from what I've learned so far, like it's a team that has some talent. I think a team who can hit some shots. I got the opportunity to watch several of them play a good bit this summer, just with some overlap, but with some qualifiers where some juniors might be playing, or maybe they got paired with someone. So that was actually really great to see. And then also like right away, like help them out with a little bit of some golf game and some practice stuff right away. So I think they just may need a little bit more structure and a little bit direction, and that's okay. That's what I'm here for. That's the stuff I love. And so now that I'm the one sitting in this chair, like it's on me to help them get better. So no, I'm excited for them. It's a good group. It's a tight knit group, which I think is really, really cool. So I think we got some guys who want to be good and want to get better, and I'm here to help them do that.
What's the first day of school? When's your first qualifying round? When's your first competitive date?
Yeah, so first day of school, we start Monday the 21st, so that'll be here in about 5 days. So they're all getting all geared up for that. First qualifying will probably end up towards the later end of next week. Haven't gotten the definite date yet. Still working through some class schedule stuff. And then we'll leave for our first event on September 9th, going to Lipscomb's event that they're hosting down at Streamsong in Florida. So excited to get it going.
Okay, now does it feel? I hate to ask feel questions, so I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that. What are the nerves you're feeling? Even though I said feel again, is you're going to be a head coach and it's your team and you're going to prepare them and it's on your coaching record at that point.
Mm-hmm.
How are you handling that? Because I remember I was an assistant coach all those years, and when the team would win, I would share in the victory, and the team would lose. I'd look at Mike Holder and say, "Your team lost, coach." So what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, if it doesn't go well, just not beating myself up too much and not sitting in it. I think kind of like what I talked about in like the recruiting stuff during the summer, where you get told no a couple times. It's like, dang, it's really easy to kind of fall into like just that kind of self-deprecation, or it's like, dang, maybe I don't have what it takes here. I think it's going to be really important for me to look at that very as objectively as I can and be able to pull the stuff that, hey, that was pretty good, but also it's like, hey, like I need to do this better, and then our players need to do this better, and now I need to help them do that. I'd say that's probably I would say that's the biggest thing, and I know I'll come back to it, being decisive with all of this.
You need to be decisive. You said it earlier,
Yep.
it's better to be decisive than correct. I 100% agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you just have to make the decision to do it. And I think it was one of my weaknesses as a young coach. I didn't want to upset anybody. I wanted everybody
Yeah,
to feel good about who I
for
am.
sure.
You better get past that real quick
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you
exactly. Yeah, I would say that's another one of like wanting to keep everyone happy and wanting to make everyone happy. And I've got 11 guys and you only take 5 to a tournament. So at some point in there, someone's not going to be happy, and having to just manage that in the best way possible.
yeah, I think if you treat them right, treat them with
Mm-hmm.
respect, treat them fairly, they'll eventually be able to handle that decision, even if they don't like it. So you're a young head coach. 7 years ago, you were the same age as the seniors you're coaching right
Yeah.
now. So you're not that far removed from where they are and living in a dorm and doing all that. What's the biggest advantage to being 29 as a head coach and the biggest disadvantage? Because I was just a high school coach. I was a head coach, but I was a high school coach. At the time, I didn't have all the responsibilities that you have. What's the biggest advantage and biggest disadvantage, do you think?
I think biggest advantage just being this young, you're able to, I think, relate to them a little bit more, just about like what's going on in the world and things of that nature. And like they're a lot of the stuff with them in college is pretty similar to what it was for me in college. And just being able to kind of help them navigate that I think will be really, really helpful. One of the biggest disadvantages is maybe I might not quite have all the experience that maybe someone else has that might be coaching for 20 years, who might be 40 or 50 years old. But that's okay. I'm fortunate that I got in right away, and this is my 8th year coaching. I'm only 29. I'd say that's probably one of the biggest disadvantages. Maybe there's just not quite enough, or maybe there's not all the experience there that someone else could have, but still being able to pull the wisdom and the lessons and the stories from all that, I think will be important.
I love that. I love it. I'm going to make sure that I make a point of having you on the podcast again when your team wins your first tournament as a head coach. I want to know what all went into that. And there's going to be a lot of great things between now and then, and a lot of disappointments. And maybe it's your first tournament stream song. Who knows?
Yeah, never know.
Maybe you just don't know. So your faith, I've known you very, very closely. Your faith has been very important and to you. And I'm at a faith-based institution where I'm expected to share it, but you are at a public institution where you're not really allowed to share it. I guess when you're asked, you could, but how are you going to handle that when it comes down to it, as far as how you handle the faith part of it?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things is showing it by example the most I can, and understanding that this is me coaching them as an act of service, and that it's about them. It's not about me, and doing everything I can in my power to help them get better. And even if it's something maybe I can't quite do it practically, giving them like avenues to be able to do that, or putting them in touch with people who can maybe help them a little bit more. And I'd say that's probably my biggest thing. And then keeping things in perspective and keeping a humility about myself and the team, and doing everything I can to make this all about them and us getting better as a whole.
I love that answer. So before we finish, I want to make sure you know one thing. I need you to keep your eye on that Ryan Blagg over at Louisville.
I've seen him plenty this summer.
I bet you did. He is really one of my favorite guys anywhere. He's just so interesting, so intelligent. So he communicates well. He does a great job. Have you been able to pick his brain at all?
Yes, I have. I know it was honestly a couple weeks into the job. We talked on the phone once for a while, and he did a really good job of telling me just kind of what to expect, like recruiting wise in Kentucky, just with different kids. It's interesting. Like there's a lot of kids here who are pretty good, but fly under the radar a little bit, I would say, because there's just a lot of you have a lot of kids from small town places who don't really go super far away. But if you kind of get down in the weeds enough and go to some maybe far away places, kind of like in far eastern Kentucky or western or the small towns, you can actually find some pretty good you can find some talent that kind of might be flying under the radar a little bit with that. And I know he's been great about just being encouraging to me and recruiting and working hard. And then also I know he's an open book to talk about hey, if there's something I wish I would have done better when I first started as a head coach, when he started there 3-4 years ago now at Louisville. He's been fantastic for that.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Ryan is a very giving person, but I think our profession by and large, if you honestly, sincerely ask a more veteran type coach, for some advice, I think our guys are really good about giving it, because they had somebody helping them out when they were young too.
Sure, for sure.
Well, I want to thank you. We've spent about 45 or 50 minutes here just talking, and kind of, one, it was good catching up, but two, kind of, I can see the, excitement in your face that you're really, really fired up about this. And as I said, I want to have you back on here when you've had a little bit of seasoning and when some things have happened, so we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, no, I would love to do that. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on here and talk with you. So I know I've learned plenty from you and more from this podcast. So to be on, it's an honor.
Absolutely. You bet. Well, best of luck, and we'll see you hopefully recruiting and at a tournament sometime this year.
Yes, sir. Sounds great, Coach.
All right. Thanks.